What is up, everybody? I'm back with another edition of the State of Bitcoin podcast. But first, for those listening on Fountain 2.0 apps, or podcasting 2.0 apps, excuse me, like Fountain, I really do appreciate it. I appreciate everybody who streamed me sats and tuned in and kind of supporting the community that way. I appreciate all the boosts, but like I said, nobody's leaving me any reviews to talk about. They're just leaving them and just supporting. So I appreciate those who are supporting. And if you want to leave me a boost, feel free, and I will read it on the show. But I always encourage people to listen on that app, kind of help some of these builders, creators, and what have you. And a little side note here too. I am in Florida. We're in the midst of a tropical storm. So if you hear a little rain or thunder in the background, I do apologize. And then lastly, before I get into it, I'd like to thank my affiliate, Shamri. I've had the founders of Shamri on my show. And so if you haven't heard that, go back and listen to it. But I also got this nice hat from them, so I appreciate that. It's pretty sick here. But if you're looking for some gifts for the holidays are coming up, whatever you celebrate, use the code GREENCANDLE at checkout, and you'll get 10% off. That's Shamri, SHAMORY. And you can get some card games. You could get some children's onesies. You can get it all. They have a lot of cool stuff on there. So be sure to check it out and use code GREENCANDLE at checkout. That's code GREENCANDLE at checkout for 10% off. Now, did something happen this week? I'm not really sure. I mean, it seems like it's a quiet week. Nothing too crazy has happened. I'm just kidding. Let's get into the whole FTX debacle. I mean, where to even start with this? So if you guys haven't heard anything about FTX or this whole giant scandal with Sam Bankman-Fried, or SBF, as I'm sure you've seen on Twitter, this guy is in some shit. He's lost, I think, $18 billion of his own net worth, and $6 billion of the user's balance sheet is all of a sudden just gone, and there's no more withdrawals. So FTX, it's a big crypto casino exchange, whatever you want to call it, that has spent an astronomical amount when it comes to marketing. And I think this was kind of the biggest red flag that I initially saw. So if you're not a sports person, FTX sponsors the MLB. They're the only crypto sponsor of the MLB, Major League Baseball. Every single one of the umpires has an FTX logo on their shirt. So every single pitch, you see somebody in the back wearing an FTX logo. The Miami Heat, NBA, National Basketball Association, has their entire arena named after FTX, the FTX Arena, down in Miami, Florida, obviously. Tom Brady is a huge athlete, probably the greatest quarterback of all time, is now, or was sponsored by FTX. I don't know if he's involved with it, but he was also a part of a funding round too, that they funded $680 million to help this company kind of get off the ground. And so it just seems like at every turn, FTX was around, and I never really knew too many people that used FTX, to be honest. But it seems like that marketing budget was just unlimited money, and they were just throwing money everywhere. So Sam Bankman-Fried has kind of come out and said he didn't think Bitcoin was the future of payments, and he's kind of been shilling all these shit coins left and right, and kind of just, propping up this shitcoin casino. But, at the end of the day, it's failed, and it's failed miserably. I believe $6 or $8 billion of user assets had been pulled off and either moved to a different platform or into cold storage in 72 hours. And because of that, they had to stop withdrawals. Now, I'm going to be a little easy on FTX in this aspect, where, if any company kind of experiences this amount of withdrawals in a 3-day period, they're probably going to struggle. They're probably going to have some, oh shit, what the hell just happened kind of things. But, they didn't have any proof of reserves. They didn't have any proof that they actually owned any of these assets. they didn't have any proof that, they were being responsible with their users' assets. And I think that this is the biggest red flag. And all exchanges are probably going to start doing something like this, where they show a proof of reserves. They show that they actually have these kinds of, or these funds and these, cryptos, for a lesser of a better term. But I think that could be like the beauty of a multi-sig, right? Where, maybe you have somebody hold a multi-sig, one of the however many private keys that you have, and so you can tell that, these funds aren't actually being moved. But I mean, how would that work? I'm not really sure the full logistics on it. Do I think that there's always going to be a space for exchanges? Yeah, probably, because some people just don't really trust themselves to hold their own keys and don't really want to take that personal responsibility. Now, as a Bitcoiner, I think that everybody should want to do that, and everybody should, kind of take control of it, because that's the beauty of Bitcoin. But, I do think that there's a segment of that population that, my mom, my dad, those kind of people, a little bit older, not maybe as technologically savvy, that just end up holding it, holding Bitcoin wherever, whether it's on an exchange or what. Um, Now, I think that there's still going to be these shitcoin casinos, because people see the amount of money that goes into it, the amount of money that people want to make, and the people have greed. And so that's, I also think, kind of the beauty of Bitcoin, where, a lot of these people, they don't, you know, they aren't in crypto for the right, kind of personal sovereignty and that kind of stuff. They're in Bitcoin because they think they can make a quick buck, and they want to see the next run up. They want to see, the quote unquote next Bitcoin. I had a Twitter Spaces last night with Mike Hobart and some others that came up, and Luke, who's going to be coming on the show here in the next couple of weeks. So shout out to those guys. But we were kind of getting into it, and it seems like this is not going to stop. There's been a lot of big investors, been a lot of big names who have been kind of behind FTX. So what's going to happen to all those people? What is going to happen to, the Tom Brady's of the world? Is he going to be brought into a lawsuit with this because he marketed it? The NFL, FTX is the biggest sponsor of the Super Bowl, or one of the bigger sponsors of the Super Bowl. And, a lot of these angel investors that invested also are invested in Coinbase and have some vested interest in there. So is something going to happen to Coinbase now next too? I mean, I think if you haven't already, and you haven't learned the lesson from, the Celsiuses, the Voyagers, and some of these other things, I think it's now time to really look yourself in the mirror and be like, okay, I need to take personal responsibility for all of this, and start to, take responsibility to hold your own keys. And I think that that should be the biggest lesson out of all of this. And I hope that it's going to kind of create more Bitcoiners, opposed to, deter people from Bitcoin because they got into this whole shitcoin casino. And so, at the end of the day, I think Bitcoin is still going to prosper. It doesn't need all this, but we've seen a major dip in the price. And so there's going to be some effects on the side that, Sam Bankman-Fried, although he doesn't control Bitcoin, this whole debacle is going to hurt a lot of other things. And I've been talking about it on, some of these other past shows, and where I've been, Twitter Spaces, what have you. And I had Jaron Melrude scheduled, but something came up, so he's going to be on in about a month or so. So be on the lookout for that episode. And he's really good at breaking down the balance sheets of Bitcoin miners. But that is my biggest worry with all of this, is that, Bitcoin miners, how they profit is essentially, they mine Bitcoin using, these machines that deteriorate and essentially have like a 3-year shelf life. Maybe they have a little bit longer if they're maintained properly, but after that halving period, the value of some of these older miners goes down significantly, and they might be mining at a loss at that point. And so, after a couple years of these miners deteriorating, maybe some of their contracts come up. So how Bitcoin miners kind of work is they, work with whatever jurisdiction that they're located in, or that specific plant is located in, and they get electricity based on X amount of cents per kilowatt hour. So obviously, the more energy that you use, probably the better deal that you can negotiate. And so they negotiate, 2-4 cents a kilowatt hour. And, if we drop down to one of these, like, maybe 10K per Bitcoin, that could be significantly detrimental to a lot of Bitcoin miners. I had Ben Gagnon on the show, and I think at that time there was like 50 publicly traded Bitcoin miners. We've already seen a couple of those go bankrupt since that time. So, with that, maybe some contracts coming up, a depressed Bitcoin price, a lot of these Bitcoin mining companies are already struggling. And this might be the final kick off the ledge here. And I'm hoping it's not. I'm hoping I'm completely wrong. And a lot of these are kind of more focused on, or, more primed and have better, I guess, a better strength of their balance sheet. But, I think the ones that survive and make it out of here are going to be significantly better suited for, a lot of these for the next bear market. It seemed like everybody got excited during the last bull run, where essentially people were just kind of FOMOing in, jumping in at 60K, leveraging machines, leveraging the Bitcoin that they had at 60K because this thing's going to the moon, all this and that. But, at the end of the day, bull markets should be there to help prepare you for bear markets. And so now's the time. Now's when, those people were kind of coming in, and you saw their stock price rise and, kind of go back and forth. And at the end of the day, it's hurting a lot of these Bitcoin miners. So, there's going to be tough effects on Bitcoin miners and on overall on exchanges. I think the narrative around exchanges now is not great. And people are going to just kind of continually pull off their assets off of exchanges, which is good. But for those companies and those, thousands of people employed by a lot of these companies, are they going to be able to survive, like, pulling off all this and that? And I don't know. I mean, I don't really think that that's going to happen, but, you have to find a company whose business model basically isn't leveraging their users' assets, which they shouldn't be doing it anyway. And another interesting tidbit of this story is Binance had offered to buy and kind of bail out FTX. Binance is one of the biggest global exchanges. CZ Binance, or CZ, the founder of Binance, and SBF, the founder, Sam Bankman-Fried, the founder of FTX, kind of were going back and forth on Twitter over the weekend. And CZ kind of pointed at, hey, like, there's going to be some issues here with FTX. And Sam Bankman-Fried was essentially like, hey, calm it down here. But, obviously, I've tweeted it out and I've said it a few times. When there's smoke in this industry, in the crypto industry or whatever, there's definitely fire. When somebody kind of sniffs around and you kind of hear some rumblings and some rumors going on about, there's a big issue, I kind of start to panic and get your digital assets off that exchange. Obviously, I'm Bitcoin only guy, and I think that at the end of the day, we should try to hold your own keys and kind of get away from that, putting them on exchanges and all this and that. But if you do have them on there and you kind of hear some rumblings of some issues, that's when you should kind of feel or take the big red flag. So, obviously CZ, he tweeted at that, and then Sam Bankman-Fried tried to say, hey, there's nothing wrong here. And obviously you guys have all seen there's something wrong. And then Binance offered to buy out or kind of bail out FTX. And obviously that didn't happen. They said there's a due diligence period before they did it, right? So they gave them 24 hours. They went through, they were looking for something specific, but they didn't necessarily say what they were looking for. Now, it seems like whatever they were looking for, they found it. And it seems like there was a big, big hole in their balance sheet. And yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting. I mean, Binance, why would they ever bail out FTX if you kind of think about it? Binance is maybe the biggest exchange globally, and FTX is like second. So with that being said, why would they bail out their number two, their biggest competitor? It doesn't make any sense. And SBF kind of came out and said, well, I don't think that, they would. I don't think that Binance was ever planning on buying or helping out FTX. And it's like, well, no shit, Sherlock. Like, are you really surprised? But at the end of the day, it seems like FTX is in some shit. The SEC is going to investigate um, FTX, and we're seeing a shit ton kind of getting pulled off of platform. Coinbase Media tweeted out yesterday that they saw over 40,000 Bitcoin removed from Coinbase yesterday. So shout out to Coinbase Media. And, we also saw somebody else kind of tweet out some potential rumors too that, they've done some forensic, I don't even know how to word this, crypto forensics, whatever, blockchain forensics analysis on on both FTX and Coinbase. And it seems like there could be a hole in Coinbase from anywhere from 10 to 20 billion. Now, that tweet has been from a suspended account now. So I don't know where that has gone. And that is kind of interesting that, you know, this is now from a suspended account. So who knows if they're being, if that's truthful or not. But that is some rumor kind of going around. So, there's a lot of elements to this story that people aren't really taking into account. It's also the investors. We have the list of investors right here. One of the biggest ones obviously is BlackRock. So of course, BlackRock's kind of involved with them. We're seeing some other things. Let's see. Yeah, there also is some potential overlap with some of these other crypto exchanges as well. But it is interesting that it's BlackRock, the Ontario Pension Fund, Sequoia, Paradigm, Tiger Global, SoftBank, Circle, Rabbit, Allen Howard, Multicon, VanEck, and Temasek. So some of those definitely overlap with a lot of these other crypto exchanges. So I think there could be some more issues kind of coming up. But one other big element to all this is that Sam Bankman-Fried donated quite a bit of money to one party in particular that did a little bit better than anticipated in the midterm primaries. So, I know that, maybe not all money is clean, and politicians have kind of taken some money from people here and there, but it seems like this money had all been kind of frauded or obtained via fraud, I guess is a better term here. And a lot of these politicians accepted it. So I wonder if this news would have come out a few weeks earlier, and people would have kind of started digging to what campaigns started to accept money from Sam Bankman-Fried, if the results would have been a little bit different. But yeah, I mean, it seems like there's a political aspect of this, not only with we got exchange companies, we got angel investors, and celebrities kind of endorsing this product. Then we have Bitcoin miners who are going to be affected because Sam Bankman-Fried just essentially kind of tanked the whole market with this news. And then lastly, we have politicians who are accepting money from this, and it's seemingly that they got it from fraud. So, what all is going to happen from all this, I have no idea. I just want to tune in and figure it out, and kind of keep my eye towards this. But we're not really sure what jurisdiction this is all going to take place in. There's going to be an element where it is I believe it's a Bahamas located company. So is that going to happen in that jurisdiction, even though they operate in like the United States and Europe and in other places? Where is all this going to go? I'm not really sure. It's definitely been the biggest story of, Bitcoin Twitter and what have you, for the at least the past like couple days. So I look forward to kind of continue. And Yeah, I mean, it's the never ending saga of this bear market. People are kind of coming at companies left and right, and rightfully so. A lot of these companies have mismanaged what they are what they are doing, and so yeah, I hope to continue to see, um, you know, things come out about this. And I hope that this just encourages people kind of to get their money off of exchanges. So I'm going to take a real sip of my coffee real quick, real here, and get into the next story. We're going to get into this latest CPI print. So one quick second. Okay. So it seems like everybody here in the US has been tuned in to the CPI prints monthly every single month. It seems like it's been a big point of discussion. There's a bunch of Twitter spaces that are always going on, all this and that. But this one, surprisingly, was actually not as bad as anticipated. But I mean, it's kind of funny because there's an expected value that comes from somewhere. People just kind of, look at some various factors and give an expected number. And then if the number is below expected, it is, there seems to be a dramatic shoot up in the market. Well, this expected number was 7.9%. So, 7.9% inflation year over year, still a dramatic amount. And it came in the month of, what is it, October, at 7.7%. But obviously there's some alarming statistics here of things that shot up still by dramatic amounts, and are probably higher than that 7 point whatever, or 7.7 percent. Obviously, the largest one is fuel and oil. That is up 68.5% year over year. Piped gas up 20% year over year. Food at home. I don't know how they measure this compared to just normal food, but food at home up 12.4%. Food away from home up 8.6%. Energy commodities up 19%. But new vehicles still up 8.4%. Used cars only up 2%. So maybe we're seeing the used car market kind of go down. But transportation services up 15.2%. So if you have to travel anywhere for work and you eat lunch away from home, even if you cook lunch at home and you meal prep, those costs have gone up, between 12 and 17% just to get to the office and go and work and earn a living. And as this whole work from home policy is kind of, I would say kind of shifting away. We saw Elon end that policy at Twitter. We're probably going to see more of these tech companies kind of end that policy, depending on your job title and what have you. But it seems like, it's just going to keep getting more and more expensive for people and for consumers. So, I mean, we've seen Bitcoin kind of go to steady hands, and a lot of these steady hands kind of continue to hold Bitcoin. And I look for that to continue and people to kind of scoop up. But I mean, we do see a lot of like industry level people kind of, you know, industry level people kind of continue to, um, I guess, sell and try to time the market. And when bad news like this happens, it's not great, obviously. So we also saw, Luke tweet out yesterday that a lot of these people are kind of taking Bitcoin off of exchanges. So as Bitcoin was dipping below 16K, 800,000 Bitcoin had been taken off exchanges in the past 24 months. That means only 35% of the available supply is now gone. So 65 of that total percent in the past 24 months that's been mined and on exchanges is now gone. So, with this projection, Luke says that there might not be any Bitcoin for sale in 2027. Now, I do think that there's always going to be some kind of room for exchange, but is it going to be paper Bitcoin? Is it going to be actual Bitcoin? I don't really know. I mean, I've brought this up a couple times on the show that this is an element that we should definitely be on the lookout for, is like how much is being issued that is paper Bitcoin, because with what we're seeing in all this inflation, people are kind of trying to find a new savings technology, um, or a new way to save. So it is kind of interesting and something to look out for. Inflation is still running rampant. I feel like I'm beating a dead horse here. People understand, people are feeling it. And politicians just keep trying to undermine this whole inflation aspect of what is going on here. And I think, the general population is waking up, but, at the end of the day, these midterm election kind of results almost make me think that maybe people aren't waking up to it. Maybe there's a segment of this population that, you know, doesn't think it's all that bad. And because of that, they're voting in these people and these politicians that aren't really going to do anything and look out for the best interest for the American people, at least in my opinion. And so, it is kind of difficult to see now. If you were to ask me this like 2 days ago before the results came in, I would have been all gung ho and figuring that everybody out there is ready and kind of sick of everything that's going on and sick of these inflation numbers. And it seems like people are kind of jumping for joy right now because it's kicking the can down the road, moving the needle, whatever, raising the bar up to get under it, that kind of thing, where at the end of the day, 7.7% is still extremely high. There was a 2% target pre-COVID. Now we're going to probably see that target go up to like a 4%. So everybody's going to be anticipating a 4% inflation rate. And then what changes from there, right? I mean, we have a 4% inflation rate, which is the new quote unquote target for the Fed. And then, right now, and at least in the US, the expected wage growth every year for the average person is, that 3% number, because people are, they want to quote unquote beat inflation. I'm more valuable 1 year down the road, so I want to see my wage grow, as well. But with this new projected inflation number, or new projected number of 4%, are people going to be vouching for a 5%, wage increase? And then how does that affect these companies? We're already seeing companies kind of grow, our companies raise minimum wage because of some new policies. So, we're seeing minimum wage go from $7.25 in the US, but granted, it's not the same everywhere, to probably close to $15. And then we're going to see people probably demanding some more raises of up to 15%, or not 15, 5%, as, more and more of these, people are kind of aware of this inflation number at 4%. And then what is that going to do? It's going to make the barrier to entry for small businesses increase dramatically. Now, right now, we don't really have easy access to capital that we had in the past couple of years. So, with the Fed tightening and increasing their interest rates, that means access to capital is down. Because access to capital is down, small businesses don't have as easy of a time to get loans. People are going to be demanding more money to work. And quite frankly, they're less productive. They want to work at home. They want to take more vacation. They want to do all this and that. And so productivity is going down and wages are going up. And that kind of started with this whole, tech kind of boom. And I'd be remiss to say that I hope that small businesses kind of survive throughout this, but I'm not as optimistic because who can afford to pay these guys these elevated wages, right? It can be the Amazons, it'll be the Apples, it'll be some of these bigger guys, the Targets. If you kind of look around and see when this $15 an hour wage policy started and what companies were announcing that they're already offering it. It was Walmart, it was Target, it was Amazon, it was some of these bigger guys who could afford to do that. So, hey, come work for us. And these, small businesses who work for less, they can't afford to pay these people. So they're poaching all their workers. These people are, everything's going up in price, all their products and services, because gas is going up and going through the roof, that they just essentially couldn't afford to compete with some of those wages. And so people weren't working for them, and so it's making it a lot harder to start a small business. And what does that do? It encourages bigger players, it encourages bigger monopolies, and it really just discourages that American dream of that people have, and to start your own business and kind of do that. So we're seeing a lot of people kind of flock away from America because of that. Now, granted, I think the Fed tightening these policies is going to make it, better overall for the American economy, but I'm still really, really worried about small businesses. So, I've had Phil Gibson writing for me for a little bit. So shout out to Phil at Mr. Sue. But his big theory, which I'm coming around on, and I do agree with, is that the Fed raising interest rates is to weaken the offshore dollar market. So the United States' biggest export at this point is dollars, and that is not good. But by raising the interest rates, they are, at the end of the day, weakening the offshore dollar market. So what does that do? It strengthens the dollar compared to other fiat currencies, whether it's the euro or the yen or whatever. And so because it's doing that, it is strengthening the U.S. economy and relative to everybody else. So while everything is kind of bleeding and not doing well, the United States is best suited to do a little bit better than the average player. Now, is that good? Maybe not in the short term, because right now we're more of like a global based economy. But in the long term, it's definitely better. We need to bring more of this manufacturing and some more things to the U.S. And a lot of these, policies that have been put in place are not really helping the U.S. prosper. And so I think at the end of the day, I'm looking for the dollar to strengthen relative to other fiat currencies, Bitcoin to kind of hold steady, and CPI to kind of keep continuing to go down. Have we reached a peak yet? I don't know. There could be another, print or something like that. I mean, we're sending troops to the Ukraine right now. So if that war kind of continues, there's that element of a potential, a Cold War, a long drawn out war that, is not going to be, wars cost a lot of money. If you've seen the movie War Dogs, you know what I'm talking about, right? So, I don't know, man. I'm just not super optimistic. I think I'll be looking at this corn price pretty closely, as I normally don't. I normally just like kind of stack and forget about it. But I'm going to be looking at it very, very closely in the next few days, because of that theory that I have about these Bitcoin miners. So if you made it this far with me, I appreciate you listening. Go like and subscribe to the YouTube channel and wherever you get podcasts, and help the show grow. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Keep passing this around. I got some great guests lined up for you that have been kind of sick and have had some family emergencies. So I've been getting some fillers here or there. So I shout out to Joey and Gandalf for jumping in last minute. But like and subscribe, share. And I will see you guys all next week. And with that, I am out.